Hello everyone, Ruby Ravel here, Mercurial Madonna of the Large Magellanic Cloud, an occasional envoy to this quaint corner of the Milky Way. And today I'm going to talk to you about Venus in its own sign of Taurus. And I want to begin by asking the question of why does Venus rule Taurus? What gives her authority over this earthiest of earth signs? To me, the answer to this mystery lies in our infantile development. When we first come into the world at the 0 point of Aries and the cusp of the ascendant, this demarcates the point at which we go from being this nebulous pre-birth entity lingering in the infinite potency of the 12th house and suddenly enter over into the material world where we are now a separate thing. We are an I rather than just an abstract potentiality. With the birth of this I, of this ego, of this identity, comes the simultaneous drive and craving, impulse and desire to keep that I alive, to survive, to fight against the forces of destruction that would send us back into the pre-birth void from which we have just torn ourselves. In that sense, the fires of Aries and the first house represent the lust for life, the part of us that says, I am alive and damn it, I mean to keep it that way. But once we get to the second house of Taurus, we realize that life doesn't always have to be this fight, this struggle, this arduous war against everything that is not myself. Survival can also be a source of pleasure and comfort. We first experience this in the quenching of our appetites. If Aries introduces us to the problem of desire and survival, Taurus in the second house show us the peace and serenity that can emerge from within us when we find that our animal appetites and instincts are satisfied. When we are hungry and we get a full belly of mummy's milk, when we are feeling sad and stressed and our parents comfort and coddle us, when we are feeling exhausted and overstrained and we are wrapped up in nice warm blankets and stroked until we fall to sleep. All of these things involve the titillation of the senses and the quenching of the fires that arise from one's physical form. And therefore it makes sense that we would first meet the pleasure zones of Venus through our relationship with our body and how that connects to the possible joys of the material world out there. So our first experience of pleasure as a baby is necessarily earthy. We are not cerebrally developed enough at 1 year old to masturbate over the heightened intellectual stimulus of the philosophies of Heidegger. We cannot lose ourselves in the amorphous bliss of astral voyages, and we do not yet have enough autonomy where we can derive pleasure from the inaction of our own will. But we do have a body, otherwise we wouldn't be here, and therefore, mummy's breast, nice. Yes, being stroked, nice. Eating food, nice. Not being hungry, nice. So with Venus in Taurus, we become aware that a lot of pleasure, joy, and happiness can come about simply through having some of the basic needs of our body met. And that those basic needs can also be met by our relationships with other people. That might sound mind-numbingly obvious, but to a lot of other Venus placements, it isn't. For instance, Venus in Pisces is so dissociated from its body and so lost in the infinite deep sea diving of its own fantastical inner realms that it's hardly aware of having a body at all, let alone the fact that that body has certain requirements that have to be met. Or Venus in Leo, who finds the concept of having basic needs, well, a bit too basic. If I have the same basic bodily requirements and desires as everybody else, that means I'm not special because I'm too much like all the commoners, all the riffraff, all the hoi polloi. I can only distinguish myself in my pleasures and my tastes by making them more elevated, lofty, dramatic, and mythopoeic than other people's, by being, as I am with my own Venus and Leo, a massive snob. Venus in Taurus then is connected with our conceptions of the earth goddess, with Pandora, whose name means all giving. She gives us all the gifts of the earth. When we imagine this earthy Venus, everything that the senses could possibly crave are all spread out before her in a buffet table of abundance, in a smorgasbord of sweet, sweet consumption. She lies there in her pastoral meadows with a nice symphony of Brahms playing in the background, surrounded by fruits, by all the vegetables and bounty that the earth can give. She is satiated with wine and covered with comfortable fabrics and surrounded by muscular butch lovers who know exactly what they are doing. This version of Venus in classical art is often depicted as being curvaceous, thick, voluptuous, because that is a sign of her overflowing bounty, of the fact that she has enough and more for her senses, that her body can afford to overflow a little, to be this soft pillow on which other people can rest. If she were depicted as being too skinny, too abstemious, too anorexic, she wouldn't be a good image of the goddess of plenty at all. She would be a sign that the world has not given us enough gifts, that we have had to get by on the meager fruits that we have been able to scrape out from an unyielding earth. Venus in Taurus does not want this. She wants to have everything laid out just so that she can be sure her appetites and the deliciousness that can come from giving to them generously will never go wanting. And why should you ever go wanting? One of the funny tropes that we hear about this that is rather dualized is the fact that Taurus and Taurian energy is often conceptualized as being lazy and yet at the same time being reliable and a hard worker. And there is good reason for this. However, I see it less as a matter of laziness and more as a matter of rhythm. Every zodiac sign and every house energy has its own natural rhythm and tempo that manifests according to what it is attempting to do. The energies of Aries are fast because they are compelled by their desires, by their urge to live, by their desire to be kept up in the prestissimo magic of a life lived to its zenith. It has so much energy that it always needs to be putting it out to somehow keep itself in a state of nervous balance. With Taurus, it isn't wanting to put out energy, it is wanting to conserve it. It is wanting to rest and relax into it. And therefore, it prefers to go about things at a leisurely, moderate pace, at a tranquil andante or a nice, relaxed largo. So if Taurus tried to rush about at the prestissimo tempi of Aries, it would find it would have those bursts of energy quickly followed by exhaustion. Whereas if we go about things casually, slowly, at our own pace, we find that actually that gentle rhythm can be kept up for quite a long time. We move along for a bit, we do a little work, we stop to snack and graze. Got to make sure I pronounce those sacred Taurian words with absolute clarity. We stop to have some tea and coffee, and then we carry on. We walk a little more, we work a little more. It's this balance that is trying to work more in terms with the natural rhythms of the earth. If we look at animals, their behavior is not constantly frenzied. They have flurries of activity here and there, and then spend a lot of time just grooming, like two jackdaws on the rooftops, carefully kissing each other's feathers. But then Venus in Taurus, as the reliable worker, as the strong butch husbandman who can be depended upon, is an extension of its desire to have its core earthy needs met. If we don't particularly care about our body, if we're very Uranian and not really connected with the appetites of our physical form, if we're mostly just craving intellectual nourishment or the freedom and autonomy to be ourselves, we're not really going to care about constructing a stable, steady lifestyle in which all the good things that we want to keep us in that state of cozy nourishment are coming in. We will be indifferent to that. Whereas if your prime mode of experiencing joy is through the satisfaction of your body and your core basic needs, you don't ever want to be in a position where you are impoverished, where you are having to fight to have those things. Therefore, if you can find work that is reliable, steady, in which pays well in accordance with how much you need in order to keep those delights satisfied, then you will be happy as well. In short, if Venus in Taurus wants to taste the sensual fruits of the earth, it has to be willing to plow that earth as well. And boy, does it like to plow. So yes, Venus in Taurus loves sex, loves it, can't get enough of it. Again, that's assuming that Venus is well placed. If she has a complicated interaction with Saturn or Uranus or Pluto, she might feel the need to control those sexual cravings or feel ashamed of them or have a kind of schizoid relationship with them. But if she is able just to be herself and to celebrate the loveliest expression of what it is to be incarnate in an earthly body, then she will. There's so much about having a physical form that is painful, that is terrifying, that is scary. Venus in Taurus would rather focus on those things that are ecstatic, that are delightful, that are euphoric, that help one go to sleep with a snug smile on one's face. To Venus in Taurus, sex and lovemaking and physical touch, so cuddling, stroking, being caressed, all of these things are as much basic needs as is eating and breathing, because all of these things reinforce one's form. Yes, they are connected with survival on a kind of instinctual level in terms of procreating and propagating the species, but it also just propagates Mama's sweet, sweet pleasure. This slow, languorous approach to the pursuit of pleasure can also extend itself to the slow, languorous enjoyment of lovemaking and physical intimacy. It's very much the case that if something's enjoyable, it's worth enjoying at your own pace. There's no point rushing a good thing. You should really just dig deep into it and take your time with it. If we associate Venus with the cows in the meadow, if they found a good patch of grass, they're not moving for anyone, honey. They are in no rush. The good eats are right here, and that's where I'm staying. So, if you can be in the bedroom for an hour, why not 5 hours? If you can have a nice, delicious main course, well, why not follow it with a dessert? And then another, and then another. And just keep that nice pleasure coming. But I will venture some personal opinions here. I've talked before about what it's like when a planet is in the sign of its fall or its detriment, where I don't necessarily always see that as being a bad thing, because even though a planet might be in an element where it doesn't naturally belong, where it can't express itself in an ordinary way, sometimes that can be a challenge for it to express itself in an extraordinary way. Whereas sometimes when a planet is in the sign of its rulership, everything around it comes so naturally, is so supportive of the natural temperament of that element, that it doesn't really have to work very hard. And whilst its good qualities can flow from it without too much exertion, it also means there isn't much there to prevent its negative qualities from expressing themselves in an undisturbed, proud, and stubborn way. So one of the dangers of Venus in Taurus is that it can be overly attached to the pre-existent areas where it knows it has a reliable, dependable pleasure in hand. Unlike Sagittarius or Aquarius, which are always going to be scanning the horizon or projecting their telescopic eyes to the stars, looking for the next best thing, if Venus in Taurus has a pretty good thing here, it very much operates under the philosophy of if it ain't broke, it don't fix it. And whilst that is perfectly fine, it can also mean it can be resistant to trying anything new. It's like, I already have everything I want. Didn't you see the painting, the one where I was naked and there was all that fruit around me? I've got it all, babes. So when Venus in Leo rushes along and goes, oh my God, to the Venus in Taurus cow in this field, saying, oh my God, you have to come to this part of the farm. Something amazing is happening. You've never seen anything like it in your life. I've seen the most beautiful flowers and the most splendiferous visions of heaven. And, the chickens are performing an opera. And the Venus in Taurus cow in this field is going, no, I'm fine where I am, thanks. And that's part of one of the other elements of Taurus's energy, is that whilst Aries initiates, Venus in Taurus preserves and conserves and protects whatever it has. And this is why many Venus in Taurus people end up being very domestic, being inveterate homebodies, because once they get to the point where they can have their own home, they can turn it into their own private kingdom, their own private citadel, in which everything around them is an expression of their own personal values. They can make a house in which everything around them is something that they like and take pleasure in, and they never have to encounter anything they dislike, oh God, until they leave the house and have to deal with other people who don't just like normal, nice, straightforward things like they do. Good God, what's wrong with them? The temerity of these people. So the stubborn temerity and fixity of Venus in Taurus's values and ideals can sometimes be obnoxiously rigid. They can be turned into this dogma which nothing can flout. They enjoy simple reductionisms and generalities which paint the world in such aphorisms as, there are two types of people in the world, those who like what I like and those who are wrong. And again, here's where I state my own personal bias. Because of my Mars in Taurus and my many earthy placements, I am often very attracted to people with Venus in Taurus. Mama likes those voluptuous figures. But I also have Pluto in Scorpio in square with Venus in Leo, which is almost always going to be triggered by any interaction with other people's Taurus placements. And my tendency to be theatrical and dramatic and overblown and always to want to be special and individual in any area or art in which I seek to distinguish myself can seem pretentious and trumped up to a Venus in Taurus. It's very much the case of, it might even be attracted to it, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't have gotten close to me in the first place, but it can also say, why do you have to make things so damn complex? Why can't you just enjoy eating eggs and bacon and crisps and fish and chips like the rest of us? Why can't you just enjoy a casual pint down the pub? Why can't you just be satisfied to watch Coronation Street and enjoy Gavin and Stacey? Why does it always have to be Tristan and Isolde and the pre-Raphaelites and all these other highfalutin concepts that you have to engage in to make yourself so damn special? Why can't you just enjoy the nice ordinary things like a nice ordinary person, like a nice everyone else in the world? So Venus in Taurus can sometimes have a horror of people insisting that they are special, that they are complex, that they are different. Venus in Taurus loves the ordinary world and therefore can also have a hatred and jealousy of anything that is too extraordinary, because then it is going beyond the bounty of that all-giving mother. It's saying, all of this abundance you've given me, it's not enough. I'm not interested in the earth. I want what is up in the heavens. And Taurus says, there's nothing in the heavens. Anything you could want is down here. Stop being so bloody ungrateful. Anyway, if I go on beyond this own mini argument with myself, I will run out of time. So as much as I would like to take things at a more leisurely Venusian pace, I haven't got my new camera yet, but trust me, it's on the way. Keep the faith, people, keep the faith. It's coming. It's coming. Believe me. Please, trust me. I've had too much coffee. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you fancy any spiritual counseling or astrological guidance, my email is below if you want to share any of your own Venus and Taurus experiences with me. Please do, and please be gentle. I haven't ever meant to offend anyone in these videos. My God, why would I wish to do that? And also I have a Patreon, so if you want to support me on there so I can keep on making stupid videos like these where I take the piss out of myself and other people, then you know where to go. It's all there, baby. The gifts I have given you are ripe for the taking.